in preparation for this false flag return of Christ that I expect. Oh, and if you don't know, you're beyond the veil. This is Adina. Okay, might as well just get used to how we do things around here. I'll greet you after I break you on in. I'm just going to get right to it. Spirit, Most High Mother and Father God, remove any scales from my eyes and any bias from me that will keep me from channeling this message in spirit and in truth. I only ask for truth for myself and for everyone else. Most High Mother and Father God, did the person that society calls Jesus the Christ, did that man exist? Did Jesus the Christ, or the person that they attribute that name and title to, did he live and breathe on this earth in a human body? One card, Spirit. Did Jesus, the person that they consider the Christ, truly exist as a man in human form? Absolutely. And he was also killed. Murdered by politicians. Jesus, Malcolm, Marcus, Michael. And I say Michael because Martin Luther King's birth name was Michael. When I was the head editor-in-chief for the communications department in the union, along with being the chairwoman of the Civil and Human Rights Committee for the union I was in at Lockheed Martin, I ran for Black History Month in 2021. I ran an editorial on Martin Luther King, but I'm very unconventional. If I wrote a piece on someone, I didn't want it to be the same regurgitated information. So I did some research and I looked for information that wasn't popularly known about such a popular person, and I found that he was born Michael. His name was changed to Martin Luther after the popular Protestant leader, Martin Luther, who created the Protestant movement. That is where that name come from, but Martin Luther King's name was Michael. Fun fact. Something about these M's: Michael, Martin, Malcolm, Marcus. Jesus was just like them. Tupac. Remember they said the government said there'll never be another Jesus or another revolutionary leader or something like that after Tupac was killed? That's what Jesus was. Someone who comes to bring revolution to the people. In religion, the Nicene Council decided, with the help of Constantine legitimizing them, that the other beliefs, which they then made pagan after they decided which of the ancient manuscripts that they found were good enough to be in the Bible and which one they weren't. The ones that weren't were the ones that spoke of the true message that Jesus taught, and it was more occult than a lot of you religious Christians are going to like. Because in religion, there is a hierarchy, just like in politics. There is a president, a vice, so forth and so on. In the church, pastor, assistant pastor, bishop, deacon, this. There's a hierarchy there. What Jesus taught was there is no middleman. Jesus found out how to access a Christ consciousness because Christ was not his name. It's a type of conscience, and so they gave him that as a title because he brought enlightenment on how to achieve that consciousness without the rituals and things that a lot of other spiritual systems utilize. Even Native African ones, sacrifice and things like that were a way of atonement and other things. Christ found a way to bypass all of that. We have all of those rituals within us. So learning Christ's teachings would probably look more like Buddhism than what religion Christians look like today. Because the key was meditation. Fasting, meditation, certain diets, things like that helped you achieve Christ consciousness without the other rituals and mediators in the hierarchy of the church. Christ would not have had you guys come to him every Sunday and sit in a building with him. Because if you've been spending your entire life going to church, that means you have not graduated. You have not learned anything. You don't go to grade school your entire life. You reach a certain point of evolution where you graduate and you no longer need basic education. So why then do you go sit in a church with a teacher for your entire life when that teacher too is on the same journey of evolution as you? How are they teaching you how to evolve when they too are in the same boat you are in? What school do you go to where you never graduate? The church. Christ existed, but notice how the hangman didn't come out, because he wasn't anybody's sacrifice. Not a God. Not any more of a God than me. Not any more of a God than you. Enlightened, absolutely, but he was murdered. Because he continued to preach a message that was trying to be hushed. And people were converting. People were listening. Christ was a very powerful spiritual leader, but he was not a God. Thank you, Miko the Great. And I'm sorry you guys have been worshiping a mere man all your life, because I don't know what that does to your soul if you die that way. Actually, I do know, because I've told this story a few times to some of my clients. When you die that way, get out now. Even if you don't know where to go next. After this, I ain't lying to y'all. I'm telling you guys history. It's taught everywhere but in the church. And if you are a subscriber to my channel, and 90% of my subscribers are return subscribers, you're here because you trust my vision and my gift. I'm telling you guys, which one of these cards looks like a God to you? Because these are court cards, not even major arcana. Jesus was killed, murdered, just like any one of us could be killed and murdered. A political agenda, absolutely. Absolutely a political agenda. Just like it still is. And thank God for visiting me while I sat in a church in 2012. I heard it in my ear. Get up and leave this place and never return. I will teach you from now on. I literally looked behind me because I thought a man was whispering in my ear. And when I didn't see nobody, I got the fuck up and I left. I've been to a church twice since then. Once at the request of my mother, and recently after my most recent breast cancer scare and loss of my business by thieves. My uncle, who's a pastor, asked me to come and share my story, my testimony, and I did. And I've grown exponentially since then. Everything that I know now, I've learned the majority of it since leaving the church and not having anybody teach me but the spirits. That's why it's so hard for me to teach y'all classes when so many people request classes and teaching stuff from me. How I'm supposed to teach y'all something that a ghost, a spirit, whispered into me? But I'll figure it out, and I'll figure out how to transmute it, you guys. Ten of Swords. Murdered by his community of people who were calling themselves Jews. But there was a lot of hierarchy and power in the structure of religion. This person was black or not Caucasian, not like the white Jesus that y'all been plastering all over the media. No. This is a Middle Eastern. He was anywhere from olive colored on down to bliggity black, somewhere in that hue. He's in the Eastern hue, and not the Eastern hue that came from other lands and settled in the East. No, he was dark-skinned. And most of the spiritual systems and practices that were under persecution from the church were dark-skinned in nature. Olive-skinned, brown-skinned, sand-skinned, black, brown, but not wiggity white. I believe that Jesus was placed in some tomb, and I believe his body was taken. Not transmuted. Somebody took it. Let me look into this bliggity black card so I can drive this home. In case any of my white followers here are Christian and you love the Lord, you love Jesus with all your heart, I'm going to tell you now, if you got a racist bone in your body, you're going to be awfully upset when you... When you find out Jesus got nappy hair, dark skin, and a machete. Not even a sword, but a machete. Like a Haitian. Okay. Like a Zoe. Like a Zoe. A machete. Yes, yes, I'm a Zoe. I never had a problem making this music all I know, so hold on tight, cause I'm a blow beating down on the Chevys. We ride at the club. Y'all know that song if you're from Florida. Yes, yes, I'm a Zoe. Hey, shout out to all my Zoes. Sock passe. My bullet. And fun fact, the first time I ever heard about Haitians eating cats was from Black Americans. Black Americans. I started hearing that my first time living in South Florida. And it was black people. Them Haitians, they eat cats. Them Haitians, they eat cats. Trump is from South Florida. That's where he heard it from. Black people. I'm telling y'all, that is not something white people believe. They don't know nothing about Haitians like that. Black people. Trump got that from living in South Florida, listening to other black people. Black people have been the biggest persecutors of Haitians. And growing up in Florida, I seen it firsthand. And I dare a Haitian from Florida to lie and say that white people were their biggest prosecutors. Who was calling y'all dirty? Who was telling y'all to go back on the boat? Who was calling y'all African booty scratchers? Who was telling y'all y'all stank and y'all eat cat? Because it was not white people. South Florida is full of everybody but white people. From being from Central Florida, where we don't have a big Haitian population, I got to South Florida and, girl, them Haitians, they stink. They eat cats. Even when I was living in Lauderdale this most recent time with my ex-husband, my neighbor who helped me get into the spirituality that I am by teaching me the voodoo. They was the ones told me they eat cats because they always had cats around their yard, but they wasn't eating them. They was doing something else with them, but they wasn't eating them. They might have had them in a pot so that they can boil the meat and the skin off and use their bones for divination and juju, but they wasn't eating them. Black people. All right. 9 of Wands. I believe the soldiers were Roman or of some other hue. This is Jesus. This is the soldiers. Knights Templar. Are you guys the ones that found his bones and hid them and moved them? Knights Templar were hired by the church to assist the Jews and Christians on their way to Jerusalem and to all the other places that Christians were safe to go. However, along the way, the Knights start finding ancient artifacts and things from the early days that contradicted the message that the Vatican and the official church was putting out. They found them and they were like, wait a minute, the church ain't tell us this. They must have known and hid it too. So what did the Knights did? They kind of now became occult groups because they had all this hidden knowledge that the church hadn't found, because they were out there helping early Christians make pilgrimages. So they were all over the holy lands and the ancient lands. They found things from the early days that showed them that the message that the church was putting out about Christ and God wasn't true. Those are where the Golden Dawn, the Rosicrucians, and all of them come from. The Templars, who had the true tea, and they hid them from the church. That's why the church decided to have the Templars disbanded, because the church was like, is you working with me or is you working with them? And the Templars was like, yeah, but you're a liar and a thief and you ain't right. And Jesus, the person that they call Jesus, does have a lineage. Mary, I believe Magdalene, or whomever they say, I believe they say Mary Magdalene. Magdalene is not only his baby mama, but one of the highest ranking initiates of Jesus. She was more higher ranking than probably the disciples, because she's a woman. And we are receptive to the Spirit. We are spirituality incarnate. It said that she was able to understand Jesus' parables and messages when even the disciples could not. That's why they hated her. He loved her, and he gave her secrets he didn't give them because they didn't have the understanding that the woman had. That's why in the Bible they tell you that women ain't fit to teach, because they was hating. Because Jesus was giving all the tea, all the secret tea, to Mary because she was more wise. She had children. She escaped somewhere with her children, her teachings, her child, her teachings, and everything else Jesus left behind for her. She was hidden so that she couldn't be found, and persecuted as well. And her persecution wasn't just from the church, but also the disciples. I don't trust them either, because Jesus acknowledged Mary, his highest initiate, because of her ability to understand. She was more enlightened than the men, but their ego and pride. So they're not going to be 100 about things either if it means giving somebody else props. That's why it's good to come to a spiritualist, because I'm not going to lie to you. I don't have no reason. You would think somebody like me would lie and say, no, Jesus never existed. No. A man existed, a revolutionary, just like every other black revolutionary that you've seen. Spirit, since Jesus was a human being, I consider him an ancestor. What would Jesus have to say to anybody that has been worshiping him watching this video? Not just venerating him, but worshiping him as God, above God, as equal to God. What would be your message to my viewers? Jeezy. I don't even want to call you Jesus because you wasn't no Spanish man. I'm going to call you Jeezy because you was black. And I don't know the African equivalent. Let go! Let go of what you hold so dearly to, because this is called the miser. This tarot card is called the miser. And it's the number 4. You know what the number 4 is? A square. You know what's good about a square? Everything that's good inside of that square stays in. You want to know what's bad about a square? Nothing gets out. Nothing old gets out. Nothing new gets in. So there's no change. Which is why it's only good for a foundation to build on. Because it doesn't change. It doesn't grow. It doesn't learn because it's enclosed on all 4 sides. So nothing old that's no longer serving you gets out. Nothing new that could serve you is going to get in. The miser. And at all costs, even if it's all they have, they will hold on to this for dear life, even though this takes place on a stage, so none of it's real. Let go of, because at the end of the day, your religious belief is something that you are holding on to, even though you know it's not real. Jesus the Christ is saying most of you who live by and die by Christianity is because it's what's ingrained inside of you, not because it's truth. It's just become a part of who you are because it's been a part of society. You're afraid to let it go and take off the rose-colored glasses. You're afraid of what you'll find out. And that's that you've been played by the church. Wow. What a message. Jesus, behind the 4 of Pentacles, why do they need to let go? Why would you want to hold on to something that you were either forced or killed into? I hear Jesus saying the majority of you who call yourself Christians had it embedded in your DNA by death. Death and destruction. And this is a card of life because it's Leo, the sun. Since I'm talking about Jesus, the sun rules this card. I am not the son of God. I am one of God, but I am not the God, not any more than you. And why let it go? Because this is also a sign of life. Life, maybe not the most healthy like the sun card, but you're healthy enough to live. You've overcome whatever challenges you were facing, and now you can live like a conqueror. You do not live and you do not conquer with the religion that you're holding on to. In fact, you are being readied for this character when it comes back masquerading. This is who you guys are really giving your essence to, because you give your energy to a deity, whether you know it or not. Even if you call it by a name, you may not know who the fuck you're talking about, especially praying to someone called Jesus that grew up in the Middle East or Africa. So just off that alone, you already acknowledge, okay, maybe that's not his name, but he knows who I'm talking. No, I just had this conversation yesterday. You guys take spirituality a little bit too easily. This stuff is just as real as tangible life, and it comes with real results and consequences. So just because you think your intentions are pure, but you are praying to something, you're praying to someone, and they are collecting your prayers. And yes, they are your God because you've made them so. Even if you call it by another name, this energy doesn't mind you calling it Jesus, a Mexican man. Doesn't mind you calling it Yahweh, a warring God. It doesn't mind as long as the principle is the same and the belief is the same. The devil, and I'm going to end it here. I can't believe after this message I just preached, I can't believe y'all deserve for me to send around a tithes bucket. I should put this on my members only channel because they the only one pay their tithes for this kind of message. Shit. But I ain't gonna monetize something like this. But come on now. Come on now. I don't hear nobody else giving it to you like that. Where that other lady? Come on now. The devil. You guys are worshiping the devil through the Pope. A devil through the Pope who does not want to lose his control over the world, which is why Christianity was created. Power and conquering over the world. Colonizing and conquering by force. The devil, the emperor, Constantine, because he's the one who said he had that vision and knew that Christianity was the real thing, and then start going on crusades in order to force people into Christianity. How does that look like God's love to any of you who sit up in churches and pretend to disassociate yourself and your church from Rome and its sins? But it doesn't matter if you go to New St. John, not St. Paul's Basilica of whatever. Your New St. John is a child of St. Paul's, whatever, Catholic facility. And it doesn't matter how much you kick and scream, you still eat off of your Father's plate. You exist off of your Father's doctrines, not God's, but your Father's. And that is who you have been worshiping. Seven of Wands, forced religion. Even though they knew the truth, Seven of Wands, Seven of Swords in reverse, these soldiers knew the truth. They knew that they were hiding the truth about spirituality, even the truth about what Christ preached. Forced this new spiritual doctrine on the world when the world had a spiritual doctrine and they were similar. This was new. And look, it came from Rome. For Rome, by Rome. There was no sacrifice to mediate for your sins. That's your job. Love you guys. Bye.